Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. My name is Matt. I'm your storyteller for the evening. And this evening, we are, as always, playing Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition, our campaign of London Ascendant. Before I start talking all the kind of pre-session blurb, let's say a quick hello and goodbye to Steve, who's our stream manager. That sounds like he's leaving as our stream manager or something, which he's not. But Steve sits behind the scenes, tinkering, cams, chats, pictures, etc., etc. How are you tonight, Steve?
I'm doing okay, thanks. Yeah, good, thanks.
Okay. So yeah, if Steve pops up, don't be alarmed. It's just that some kind of horrible emergency is happening and he needs to sort it out. And that definitely sounds like something you shouldn't be alarmed with. So yes, thank you, Steve. So the usual kind of blurb that you get before these things, there's a bunch of links down below, whether you are watching this on Twitch or on YouTube. Whichever one you're watching, we invite you to come check out the other one. All our VODs are stored on YouTube, and all of these are streamed live on Twitch. So please feel free to follow us on both of them, because that would be lovely. We also have a Discord. If you want to come and chat all things Telling Tales and roleplay with us, then the link is down below. We have a Patreon, should you feel like supporting us further. And we have lots of social media. We have the usual Twitter, Instagram, Facebook kind of stuff. We are usually, but not always, Telling Tales RP, so check us out on those as well. We run two currently weekly series. There's this one, Vampire, on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, we run Simbaroom, a dark fantasy campaign from the system made by Free League, which is very good. And we also, pretty soon, in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be starting up a Call of Cthulhu series on Mondays as well. So wait in horrible non-Euclidean anticipation for that one. Speaking of non-Euclidean, we're also running a big one-shot stream this Saturday of Troika. It's a wonderful, kind of surreal indie RPG. We're very much looking forward to it. So come check that out. That's at 3 o'clock GMT this Saturday, which is March the 6th. There is a teaser video floating around, although Twitch have managed to mute the audio on it over here. But if you check out our YouTube, it's over on there. The next thing, and this actually has something to do with Vampire, you'll be pleased to know, is we have a new relationship map. Remember the relationship map, that the tool from the core book that you're meant to have kind of floating around most of the time? Look at it in all its glory. There it is. It's grown a fair bit since the last time you saw it. John has done a huge amount of work on this in collaboration with the other folks, obviously giving their opinions of different characters, and a great many of the characters of our series are on there now with lots of opinions and thoughts and relationships between the characters. We appreciate that this is pretty difficult to read on stream like this, but if you keep following our social media, we will ping the full map out there for you to browse at your leisure. And also, it's very pretty. Isn't it very pretty? It is very pretty. So that's about enough from me, other than obviously narrating the story for the rest of the evening. Let's start bringing out our players so they can give us the recaps of what's going on in London Ascendant. And we're going to start with Neill. Neill plays Alex Taylor Brown, our resident Malkavian doomsayer. And it's fair to say that things have been ramping up for Alex's prophecies of doom recently, haven't they?
Well, less doom and more excitement, but Alex was so fortunate last time as to finally attempt to make acquaintance with Rosa Bowie at the Ash Shipping Company. They went along with Arthur, who had a slight attack of nosebleeds and other bleeds of some kind outside whilst attempting to look more human, and obviously bleeding profusely from every orifice is a great way of seeming human. So Alex went in alone, convinced a self-important manager that they should be able to speak to Rosa Bowie, became somewhat suspicious, and then had a premonition of them drinking blood from Bowie's wrist, therefore confirming that everything was fine. And they arranged to speak later.
Absolutely. And none of this is portentous in any way whatsoever.
Oh, no, it's fine.
So let's bring on our next player. It's Justin, and Justin plays Mandrel, our resident Nosferatu architect and Haven specialist. Now, Mandrel didn't have an awful amount to do last week, but why don't you tell us what she did do, Justin?
Well, Mandrel did what Mandrel wanted to do and always wants to do, rather than being distracted on these tomfoolerish schemes that the coterie wants to get up to. She wants to work on the Haven. That's what she likes doing. That's what she specializes in. And this week she actually got to do, or last week she actually got to do that and installed a new postern to get in and out.
A new secret entrance, or forgive me if I'm incorrect, but it's not so much a new postern as massively upgraded in the existing postern, like adding an extra doorway. I think we talked about, and so there's kind of a double blind entrance now.
Yeah, I think I'm still trying to work out exactly how it's all mapped out, but yeah, something like that. The postern situation is improved.
Improved postern, what
That's
you
what
want
we
in
wanna see.
all of your roleplay sessions. So let's bring out the third player, Pierre. Pierre had a fun week last week, or more specifically, Oscar Kane had a fun week last week. Our resident Tremere antiquarian, occultist, and most importantly, bookshop owner. And he had some interviews to carry out for an assistant.
Well, yes, someone to run the shop while I was away. Yeah, I found a couple of good candidates. I thought they looked like they needed to be interviewed. I invited them along. They were available for a last-minute late-night interview. Nothing weird about that. The first one I had was a nice young lady called Roni, who was very keen on all sorts of things. Bit sort of artsy, bit sort of up in the air. But a really solid person. Totally normal interview, right up until the end, where she name dropped my sire, Sarah, and that changed how I viewed her a little bit.
Yes, I mean, you haven't seen Sarah, the vampire who birthed you. Might sound incorrect. The vampire who created you since your creation. So bit of a shock.
Yeah, and you're sort of supposed to have seen your sire. I'm getting the impression that actually this is a bit weird how I've been raised. So after that sort of shock, I was fully ready for a much more normal interview. But Junius was a man who I could not place at all. He was very keen on occult things. He seemed to know basically about the Masquerade almost. Like a real strange individual, fascinating, but also,
very keen on working there, and in fact, to the degree we seem to consider you a secret master of sorts.
Yeah, almost like that. Very, very normal. Anyway, yeah.
There's only one thing we can confidently say about Junius. He's definitely got a subscription to 14 Times.
Yeah.
And I was trying to segue that. Speaking of 14 Times, let's bring on John. John is our final player. John plays Arthur Norris, our resident Ventrue. I keep using metaphors and euphemisms. Our Ventrue drug dealer. That's what he is. That's all he is.
Rude.
Drug dealer to the upper classes, Arthur Norris. How was Arthur's week last week?
Arthur's week wasn't great at first. What with the bleeding from orifices that Alex mentioned, but after we'd finished with our serious work for the evening, we went to get something to eat so I could stop bleeding, and I stopped by Club Valiant to talk to my drug dealer, who has been having a bit of problems with his previous business partner.
Yeah, well, his previous dealer.
Partner.
Obviously, he's your supplier rather. I mean, he probably does do some dealing of his own as well. But yeah, the previous person who he mainly supplied.
Yes, who had roughed him up a little bit. But I said I would go and talk to the gentleman and sort it all out.
Probably in a really smooth, if Arthur's recent history is anything to go by, in a very smooth and easy fashion with no complications whatsoever.
Probably, yeah, that's what I'm betting on.
John's trying to find a defense to that. There is none.
No.
And then one more thing happened at the end of last week, and we'll let Alex describe this. Neill via Alex describe this. Go ahead.
Well, Alex went to pick up the payphone, the normal phone method for an aspiring neonate who lacks any form of technology in their haven, and was greeted on the phone by Rosa Bowie, saying hello and introducing herself.
Absolutely, and we'll pick up exactly where we left off, I think. And for anyone jumping straight between episodes, apologies if this is a paraphrasing rather than a direct quoting. But Rose had started the conversation by asking if you had found the sign she had left you, the golden bull, which you saw in the art gallery a few sessions ago now. How do you respond to this?
I did. Your sign was as clear as the sun.
Good. I know there aren't many of us here now, but I knew as soon as my ghoul informed me that someone had come looking for me, that someone must have seen the sign.
Yes, I fear that this may not be the most secure phone conversation. Perhaps we could meet in person to discuss further.
Yes, there is certainly much to discuss, but we must be safe. You understand, there are foes arrayed against us.
I do.
I will meet you and your companions at the London Fort Gate in 2 nights' time at midnight.
I shall be there.
Good. It is. I'm glad to have found you.
Well.
Oh yeah, I forgot Arthur's
Yeah. Appearing in the doorway.
Only got half of that conversation.
We shall meet in 2 nights' time. We may need to be careful, for she does not seem to be. I suggest we do not use this phone again.
All right.
Still, it is uplifting. She was happy to meet us without any further complications, which frees us up marvelously for 2 evenings. Let us return and share the good news.
All right. What were you saying about a sign?
I don't believe you heard that.
I was standing in the doorway of the booth.
Yeah, but did Alex say anything about a sign?
I thought you did.
No, I said it was as clear as the sun.
Yes.
Never mind then. I retract that statement.
Cool.
And Alex certainly isn't telling you that.
Yes. So cool. So you head back into Down Street. Your haven, the kind of disused, abandoned tube station, and sometime war bunker. And let's say, let's have the coterie have a chat in our usual, in that council room that we frequently have meetings. Seems an appropriate place for you guys to talk and plan about your next steps. Yes.
Some of us have further to go to walk to that room than others. Just putting it out there. Oscar has to come all the way down from the basement.
Well, maybe that's why he picked it.
Oscar's got 3 flights of stairs to navigate.
I mean, surely he could just prise open the old elevator doors and rappel down.
We all know how Oscar deals with stairs.
Yeah, he could just rappel down the lift shaft, right, Mandrill? There's nothing in there. Like, there's no secret.
I'm gonna get that
Nosferatu.
I'm gonna get the. Oh wait, you mean the big lift shaft? Yeah,
yes.
The one you're in.
Well, there's no way of getting into and out of that thing from Oscar's level, but
not unless you crawl through filth.
Pretty much,
like a stinking sewer rat. So I love the Nosferatu.
Class. Everyone loves Nosferatu. Yeah, we get so much love, and you wonder why we scheme.
Yeah. So okay, let's say you're all in the council room, whatever it's called,
committee room.
let's go. Let's talk. Let's plan.
You will all be glad to know that the call with Rosa Bowie went wonderfully, if brief. She has arranged to meet us in 2 nights at midnight, so we have time to busy ourselves with other things.
Like what? We still have to talk to oh goodness me, all the names are going away.
Rowena?
We still have to talk Rowena, yeah, that's who I was thinking of. Rowena about our
Anak problem.
Yes, you took the words right out of my mouth, Oscar.
And we could do so. I believe we suggested to wait a moment, but we could do so this evening, given that our any other plans were dissolved.
Yeah. I've been sorry, my mind's been somewhere else. I've been trying to think about these CVs.
Are you all right, Oscar? You seem under a terrible anxiety.
Yeah, I'm all right. Thanks for asking, Alex. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure who to choose between these two. I'm starting to come to. I'm feeling like I don't want to choose. I'm feeling like I want to choose both.
Forgive me, Oscar. It is possible that I do not understand the gravity of the situation, but are you not choosing someone to man your shop?
Yes, exactly.
Is it not a simple matter of whoever would be least offensive to the Inquisition?
No,
I mean, surely the answer is whoever has the most retail and management experience.
Whilst also not asking questions.
We're talking about my shop here. People.
And neither of the options so far, especially, fit those criteria.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
I fear that there is something I am missing about the situation.
Okay, I have no secrets.
That's your first mistake, Oscar.
I have no secrets, proclaimed the Tremere proudly.
Within the 4 of us, I believe
I
that's
trust
the right
you.
approach.
Okay, that was enough. That's your second
It's
mistake.
your second.
Okay, I say I trust you. There we go. So I am most inclined to pick Junius, who is a very enthusiastic person. But Roni mentioned my sire, Sarah, and I have not seen or heard from Sarah a single time since, well, she brought me into this world. So...
But Sarah is on the mission. And so in some ways, her preferred candidates are mission approved.
And if this candidate announced that she was working with your sire, presumably she isn't there as a spy.
It
sounds like you've already had someone do the hard work of vetting for you.
I wouldn't rule out the possibility that she's there as a spy.
Well, no, but at least she's a very upfront and honest spy, which arguably makes her not a very good one. Which would be good for you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You are right. But on the other hand, I do need somebody who's interested in the art of this thing.
And presumably you fear that this pre-chosen candidate will not respect you and actually do as you require.
Perhaps. Yes, a little. I mean, what do you think? I could offer the job to both of them part-time.
I mean, running a shop as an individual, unless you are very passionate or have very eclectic opening hours, sounds like a scheduling nightmare.
And
You're talking me into it, Arthur.
I concur. It will also suggest to your sire that you will acquiesce to her wishes and you are loyal, but you are not foolishly so.
It will also.
You have,
Sorry, continue, Alex.
you have done as she wished, but also demonstrated your own independence. It is a fine line we must all walk.
Yes, I am independent. I have my own thoughts, and so I'm going to follow exactly what you guys are saying.
And you can always fire them afterwards if you don't like them.
Oh, Oscar, welcome to the Camarilla.
Oh dear.
But yes, thank you for your help with this. I think this is a really a good move. I'll half and half. Let's see if that.
Also, sorry, I did not wish to interrupt, but I also suggest that. What is your feelings towards this, Junius?
I mean, he's someone who could prove useful in the long run.
Well, perhaps he could demonstrate his use by making sure that the other one is spied on in turn.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Perhaps she does. Perhaps she is a useless pawn, but perhaps she might let slip things to this Junius, but not to you, and he could in turn share them with you, and then, if you wish, you could share them with us, and we could make a collective approach of how to secure ourselves from interference. My suspicion is, you see, Oscar, that your sire may have been direct, but perhaps other influences reach upon her that may cause issues.
Alex, I never knew you were so devious. I like it.
Alex is not devious. He just observes deviousness in other people and so easily can present it.
I simply wish to safeguard us against these onslaughts.
Yes, I think that's a very reasonable thought.
Okay, not to hasten the conversation, but what progress is made towards arranging? We've talked about the CD there, and the possibility of going to talk to Rowena. Or I think it was said that maybe that should not be immediate, so you're not just going there night after night to talk to her, because that's the kind of thing that makes older vampires quite grumpy. So what is there anything else? You know what? I don't think we need to make firm decisions here. What we're going to do essentially for the next, I'd say, half an hour or so is we're going to fill those 2 nights. Okay. So we're going to talk about what we get done over there. And by the fact that I've said half an hour and it's 2 nights, obviously we're not going to do any huge missions or anything like that. But I'd like to get to see just kind of what people want to get done. So, with that in mind, shall we just go around clockwise? Does that seem fair, and talk about exactly what we want to get done over these next 2 nights? So, Alex, what kind of thing are you planning on doing?
I would like to feed, or hunt, more precisely. I would like to. I do not have any means of researching Rosa Bowie, so I will not be able to do that, unfortunately. I would like to, if there is another meeting of the Book Conspiracy Nonsense Club, attend that. And I believe I've already written a letter to Grace.
You have, yes.
So I don't need to do anything about that. I think it's mainly those 2 things, perhaps with some tidying of my room now that it is sorted.
Sure. And I think we can take care of those things quite well. Let's go around and get everyone's information, and then I get a good idea of the order in which to do all this. So what's Mandrill got planned for the next couple of nights?
Well, there's 3 things on Mandrill's agenda, but I don't know how realistic it would be to achieve those 3 things. So I'm going to tell you what they are. I assume, by the way, that the work on the postern and security systems for now is done. There's no additional things.
We'll make another little roll on that. I think we'll make another little roll on the postern in a couple of in a period of time, and then it'll if that's good, it'll be finalized.
Great.
Security is all sorted.
In that case, I would like at some point to go with Oscar and see if basically steal Oscar without the other 2 knowing and go and talk to the King of Shadows, just so I'm not on my own doing that. And we can make a little, do the landlord thing with the King of Shadows. There's no need to bother Arthur and Alex with it yet. And the other thing is, I think that I would like to move my business operations, if at all possible, through my touchstone in South London. So I'd like to go to have a meeting with my touchstone, Mr. Robson, and see if I can convince them to allow me to have to do things like have business mail sent through their operation, and nest my little box making operation within there, so I can have things posted and delivered without arousing suspicion.
Yeah, I believe the last interaction you had with Mr. Robson was you sent him or sent the business an email from a covert sense, so wasn't aware that it was you, and sent them an email asking about the possibility of work, like contract sharing and stuff like that. So there is an email waiting in your inbox, so we will talk about that. So that'll definitely be covered. The King of Shadows thing, I'm happy for you to venture out. I fear that Oscar and Mandrill going to talk to the King of Shadows may be a quest better served with some dedicated time.
That's cool.
Not least of which, but you know what you can have? You could maybe have a scene between you discussing about how the hell you're going to do that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that seems like a good idea.
And I suppose we're not doing those two things. Mandrill is probably working to get a much more extensive workshop set up in the lift shaft. Workbenches, saws. They might be going to go and steal these things from local workshops, or they might try and buy them when possible, but they're probably too expensive for Mandrills at the moment.
I think that's fair enough. So Oscar, I'm assuming one of your things you want to get sorted is contacting your two new prospective employees.
Yep, that's definitely a thing, and see if they're even amenable to the concept that I have in mind. The other thing is I'm currently quite hungry, and also quite the bullet holes that I presume have cracked a bunch of my ribs and bones, still haven't actually healed.
Nope.
So I need probably to try and find a way to feed and then to try and heal. Start
healing. Because so we get a reminder of that. It's one level of aggravated health damage can be healed a night, and that is by rousing your blood 3 times.
Yeah.
So
and I'm on hunger 3 at the moment, so that seems unlikely to be a good idea.
Yeah, it's probably not a good idea unless you're basically hunger 1. So yeah, sure. Okay. What about Arthur?
So I was wanting to go see about this Terrence fellow because I want to get Harry sorted out, but I suspect that will also take... Will that take...
It entirely depends on how you handle it.
Well, yeah, my intention is to do something about Terrence. At the very least, track him down, get an eye on him, and see what he does when he's not beating up my supplier.
Sure.
I'm also waiting for word back from my contacts on the continent. And other than that, it will be much more of the same mingling, trying to contact my old friends in the city. And as great as Harry is, perhaps putting out feelers for extra suppliers. Because if anything, this instance with Terrence has proved that he is not invulnerable.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, I think that's all very reasonable stuff. And you know what? Just so we don't have to worry about it for the rest of this little snippet, let's handle all the blood stuff first, right? So what I'd like to do first of all, because I don't want people... Basically, I want to take blood away from you before you gain blood, so you know how many times you need to gain blood until you're happy. That makes sense in my head, and maybe it did in yours as well. So let's start this off with everyone making 2 rouse checks, please. And if you get to 5, don't worry about it, because I'm more looking at the holistic picture of the 2 nights as a whole. So you don't need to worry.
2 failures.
2
Okay.
failures, up to 5.
1 failure.
Okay, but don't worry about it. At no point are you actually at Hunger 5, unless you completely flump 2 hunt rolls, which I guess is possible. So
I got 1 failure.
okay, so let's go around and see how much people want to hunt. So Alex, you mentioned hunting. I'm assuming that you're going to, for your best chance at hunting at the moment, Soho is no one's domain. I'm assuming you're going to go to Soho and do your usual hunting technique, or rather not. Well, not your usual one, but
Yeah, the siren-based one.
the siren-based one. Yeah, sure. So I believe Soho is a difficulty 3, and
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 for my looks. Yep, so 7 with 3 hunger dice.
Don't forget also an extra rouse for blush.
no, I'm not going to micromanage it like that. No.
That's fine.
Well, I got 4, so I could if I wanted, but I'm not going.
Yeah, I don't want to like micromanage. Basically, every time you hunt, like in one of these time spending things, I don't want you to have to make like 4 rouse checks for like the night and the hunt, and it's too much. Yeah. It's fine. So 4 successes. So yeah, I mean that is you're not doubling up there. So I think that's just a successful hunt, and a successful hunt means you can slake 2 blood. Yes.
Yep. So I'll go back to 1.
Yep. Go back to 1 or to 3. Did you say?
I'll go down from 3 to 1. But if I was starting at 5, I'd go to 3.
Yeah. So it leaves you at 3 at the end of this, right?
Yeah.
So if with that in mind, are you happy to end these 2 nights at 3, or would you spend the other night also hunting?
I'd definitely spend the night also hunting, because I'm assuming that my book club and looking around for stuff doesn't take me whole nights anyway, so I can easily.
No, absolutely. It's just like if I'm thinking about how much you have to do, you know. So go ahead and make another roll. That's absolutely fine.
So that's the same roll again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And when we're like doing these fast time passing things, I'm not going to like roll for like what kind of blood you've consumed or anything like that, because it feels too much. How'd you do?
Another 3 successes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So you can knock yourself down to 1. So you are good to go. So Mandrel, do you want to do any hunting over this period?
Yes, please.
Bear in mind, I believe as well, in the current week you haven't used your herd.
How much is left of the current week?
Like at the end of this 2 days, it will be 2 days, if that makes sense. You're on Friday, you know.
I'll still hunt. Sure.
I would say that, like with your hunger being a constant tracker, like you'll put yourself in a. I am personally of the mind, although Neill may have crunched the stats more, that feeding as much as you can sooner rather than later is a benefit, because then later on you're not hunting with higher hunger dice.
I think that makes sense. That makes sense. I've only got 3 hunger right now, and my opinion is I like to save my herd until for situations where I might be suddenly on like 4 or 5 hunger. Yeah.
So hunting using herd technically is better early because you risk fewer messes. On the other hand, you don't always know if you get a really successful hunt, you might not have needed to.
Yeah, exactly. And I tend to find myself in combat situations. I think there's a good chance that Mandrel might suddenly expend in a single fight 3 blood or something.
And you might suddenly want,
But then combat frequently provides opportunities to feed as well, potentially. But yeah, sure, okay. Well, if you're going hunting, then tell me how you're going hunting. Are you going to Soho and using your usual sort of Sandman technique?
If we don't think Soho's becoming too busy with vampires feeding, then
I think if everyone feeds, the more you feed in Soho, the more dangerous Soho will become. So it's entirely up to you. I'm not going to give you precise mechanics for this because that would be giving you as players information your characters do not have.
Well, yeah, I currently can't really feed in Mayfair.
I don't think you have that
so,
option. Yeah. It's just too difficult for you.
Yeah.
Similarly, I'm going to keep hunting in Soho until we get the location merit, and then I'm going to judge it. It's going to have to be safe enough. So we can't drain that well anymore.
Yeah.
What is our current difficulty in Mayfair? Is it
6? I think
6.
5 or 6.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's rough. It's rough.
Yeah. So yeah, in Soho, in hotels, and I think like cheap hostels and things like that is what I've been aiming for.
Yeah.
So far.
Sure. Cool. So give us that roll. Difficulty 3.
Oh, I'm gonna have to. Oh, 4 successes. That's good.
There we go. So yeah, slake your hunger by 2.
Excellent.
Yeah. What does that bring you down to?
That brings you down to 1.
Okay. Then there's no need to hunt for an additional light, right? So
Nope.
That's absolutely fine. Oscar.
Yep.
So you're provisionally on 5, but probably won't have ever got to 5. So if you're going to your contact in again, presumably Soho, to deal odd little trinkets in return for blood bags, yeah, give me your roll for that. Difficulty 3.
Yep. So I'm rolling intelligence plus streetwise, which is 5 dice. So 5 dice, difficulty 3, hunger 3. A hunger 5. What hunger should I feed?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I actually did not specify that at all. Sorry. Use your hunger from before you rolled the rouse. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So 3.
If you ended up spending willpower or stuff for rerolls due to that, then get it back and stuff.
Okay,
Sorry,
I got
should have specified.
4 successes.
Fantastic. Slake 2 hung. That takes you down to 3. Do you want to hunt again with the additional night? Yeah.
Yep.
Give me another roll.
Okay. It's currently a bestial failure, but I could willpower reroll. So I think I should
probably advisable. Everyone should have decent willpower apart from Arthur.
Reroll. Okay, now it's 3 successes. Whew.
There we go.
Okay.
So yeah, slake yourself down to 1 then, right?
Yeah.
It's all right. As I said, I'm not going to go into detail. I like to go into detail about feeding and stuff, but with this rapid fire thing, it's probably not worthwhile. You get blood bags from your dealer. Alex probably went to. Out of interest, where did you go for this? Did you go to Club Valiant because you know it, or would you have spread yourself around a bit?
I definitely spread myself around. I consider the Valiant unofficially Arthur's territory, not to the point that I went in the important case and we're coterie mates, but
sure. And Mandrill, as Justin said, hostels and cheap hotels and the like. Arthur, are you feeding?
Yes.
Yes. So give me your scene queen roll, right?
Correct.
And I'm assuming you're doing it in Soho. I'm assuming you're doing it at Club Valiant now that you know the place.
Yes, that would make sense. So I have a total of 8 because I'm using presence, which adds an extra 2 because it's a manipulation plus persuasion roll.
Powerful stuff.
That's a lot of successes. That's 5 successes.
Okay. So yeah, take your hunger down by 2. What does that leave you at?
So, okay, I started this on 2 and then I failed 1 rouse. So does that mean I go down to 1, or that I go down to 1 and then get to the 1? So
we're not going into detail like that. Just add the total up and down. So you're on 1. You're on 1. It's all fine. Wow, this is the least hungry the coterie. Are we all on 1? Amazing. The least hungry the coterie's ever been. We need to just repeatedly roll hunting over and over again more.
It's also amazing what you can accomplish when Mandrill's not trying to hunt rats and failing 4 nights in a row.
Hey. It's not my fault that the rats are hard to catch. Look, you try and catch rats, Alex. You see how hard it is.
Can't you just talk to them and ask them nicely to slow down and be eaten?
I'm not. Look, oh my god, this is the most.
Andrew, you shouldn't.
This is some pretty serious Nosferatu mess. Look, it is not easy. You try talking to a rat. They are wily.
Yeah,
I don't believe it. Like, can you even? You
No.
just got level 1 animalism.
No, but
right?
they
Which
don't
is
know
the
that.
sensible base. No.
I'm gonna 100% convince Arthur I can talk to rats. Like I would, like
if I'm around, I totally believe it.
Arthur is
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Outrageous.
Right.
So with that in mind, I think everyone but Mandrill rolled twice for hunting there, right?
Yep.
So basically, I'm going to say you have time within these 2 nights for 4 activities. Okay, most of you have used 2 of those. One of you has used 1 of those. So let's go around clockwise again, and let's cover what was done. So Alex, you have 2 things, 2 relatively short things you can do. What do you want those 2 things to be? And yes, I will say that the book club is having a meeting.
Then I want to do that as one of my 2 short things.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to fill it up if you do. If you know. Oh, no, one can be a frippery, like tidying your room, where we're not rolling for anything or whatever.
And yeah, that is the other one. The second one's just getting my things nicely in order.
Cool. I think that's absolutely fine. So let's say that the book club meeting is on the second evening of this, right? So you've hunted a fair bit, you've tidied your area of Down Street. Ooh, Justin, could you mute if your dice rummaging? Sorry. And yeah, you go to this the public library in Mayfair, and as you walk along, you can see through the window into that kind of annex room where they have these discussions, surrounded by children's books. That there's a fair scattering of people there. Most of them you recognise from last time. You very obviously recognise your 2 touchstones, one of whom is kind of a nascent touchstone. Sorry, I am literally drawing a blank on the names. Help. One's called Laura, and the other is called
Nasir.
Nasir, thank you. I actually did have Nasir in my head, and then I was like, is it Nasir? It may not be Nasir. So, Nasir and Laura are in there, and a few others as well. And also, you see a figure unlike the others. She is standing with her back to the window, dressed in quite nice sort of a casual suit combo, and is talking to Nasir is talking to her quite animatedly, and she has her arms folded tightly in a somewhat defensive or hostile fashion.
I will give a brief nod to Laura as if indicating that I'm going to come and speak to her in a bit, in a kind of, oh, hello, and then walk straight over to the poor woman who I think I know who it is, who is being accosted.
It is your former professor, Grace Wright. As you walk into the room, you see that it's her. She's quite focused on Nasir and talking. Laura gives you a kind of very calm, silent kind of nod, acknowledging your presence. And as you walk over, Nasir goes, "Oh, here he is! Here he is! I told you! I told you!" Here they are. Sorry. Oh, here he is.
Yes, good evening, Nasir. I am glad that you are so well and animate.
Grace turns to you and kind of notably turns partly away from Nasir and says, "Alex, what the fuck is this?"
Nasir, would you mind? It has been some time since I've caught up with Grace. I'll be delighted to spend some more time with this evening with you in a moment, but I will just be a moment. And then I will gently take Grace's elbow, and I'm sure she's not resisting as I lead her away from Nasir.
No, not at all. No, she strides out, and in fact, maybe you go out in the corridor.
Yes, just to be really hammer the point in. Go away, Nasir.
Mm-hmm. He is kind of lurking, kind of near the door to it, kind of vaguely glancing out without looking like he is. But Laura seems to be sort of attempting to divert his attention. Grace kind of stands with her back to the door and kind of points over her shoulder and says, "What the fuck is that? Why are you... What? I mean, Nasir, he's always been a little flighty, but why are you involving yourself with this bullshit? You were a serious academic, Alex."
Yes, well, I only recently returned to London, and I decided to speak to some old friends. And somehow it was a brief conversation. I met him, and now he seems somewhat as you see. But I am glad at least that I have met you again. You are looking very well.
Why are you talking to me like a waiter? We're friends. You don't. What's going on with you? Look, I'm not saying I maintain this relationship with all my favorite students, but you vanish for years and just randomly turn up again, and now you're hanging out with, and I'm being charitable here, that lunatic, and what, co-running a book club for conspiracy theorists?
In truth, this is only the second time I have been here, and only because I was attempting to speak to some of the more reasonable people who I was forced to meet. But regardless, hopefully I do not have to engage in the foolishness much longer, but it is still lovely to see you.
Yes, well, it's good to see you as well. Look, I've been on holiday for a month or two, or kind of holiday a posting, but I'm back now. And if you want to go get coffee or get a meal or something, I'm happy to do that. And I'm aware that what Nasir does isn't entirely under your control. But please don't involve me with his bullshit again.
Fear not. That is absolutely not my intention. I would not be involved myself.
All right. Well, look, she hands over a business card and says, "There's my new number. Give me a call, but
I will make sure that he does not have it."
You know you're better than this, right?
There's a distinct smile. Yes.
Grace kind of nods, glances very kind of dismissively at Nasir and Laura and the rest of the book club through the door, the glass door, and walks out into the night streets of Mayfair.
I will pocket that so discreetly, if I can, whilst Grace is still interposed between me and Nasir, and walk back in.
Okay. Yeah. Nasir says, "Is Dr. Wright not joining us?"
No, she had other engagements, I'm afraid. Can I scan the room, and do there seem to be any people who look, and I'll be brutal here out of character, more on the Nasir side of things than on the not Nasir side of things, in terms of I want basically I'm trying to find people who are gullible enough that I can invite to in terms of another separate proper book club and exclude the Nasirites.
Is the word susceptible rolling over the horizon?
I want susceptible, but I don't want susceptible to Nasir.
Yes, you want people with some level of rationality. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go with rationality as the term.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think let's kind of gloss over the rest of the actual meeting.
Sure.
And you know what? Let's figure out a role for you to make to try and select people, as it were. Does that seem reasonable?
Yes, I'm basically trying to select them and then distract Nasir, speak to Laura and the sensible people, and this may not all happen tonight, form a separate book club and steadily ghost Nasir and co.
Sure, absolutely. I think that's almost certainly a manipulation role for a start. Let's say manipulation. I think manipulation plus leadership.
Insight?
Yeah, okay. For the first steps of it, you can, an insight. I think later on you'll need kind of leadership persuasion sort of thing, but yeah, absolutely.
That's fine.
Is this essentially working towards forming your herd?
Yeah, both forming the herd, but also making it so I don't have to go through Nasir to reach said herd. Sure. That would be a pain.
Absolutely. No worries.
So manipulation plus insight, I'm going to roll 6 dice. And I will have 3 successes, but I can re-roll if you think no more would be necessary.
Well, I'm not setting a difficulty number, so it's kind of up to you. I think 3 successes is a decent enough to basically you can sit here in this book club and kind of make a little, either a mental or a literal little list of names of people to maybe
mental,
talk to afterwards.
Mental, I can't listen to say anything I write down.
Sure, I think that's perfectly reasonable.
So much Nasir hate.
There we go. Nasir's a big liability, which makes him fun. So, Mandrel, you have kind of 3 activities you can get up to. Like I said with Neill, they don't all have to be like big things or anything. So it's up to you exactly what 3 you want to pick here.
Well, should we say one of them is if I were to check my emails, would there be something that says come over any time to have a chat about?
There would not, but perhaps you can take one of those actions to pursue that. So the email you've received, it's definitely not automated, but you get the feeling that it's like maybe
Personal.
an email this person has had to send before, and it's basically saying that we appreciate the offer, but Robson Woodworking only works because it's a kind of almost like an apprenticeship business. It only works with students of Mr. Robson and the other tutors here. And basically you have to be connected or kind of sort of trained by Robson, by Mr. Robson or Robson Woodworking in some way to work with them, which you think is a perfectly reasonable and kind of quite a noble. They want to give work to the people who graduate.
Totally. I think that's very reasonable, and I guess I'm weighing up whether I want to reveal my identity to this person.
I mean, by those measures, you qualify.
I would, but
they don't know that.
They don't know that. I think that I, on balance, value my privacy more than my business, unlike other vampires potentially who might exist in person and despite being dead, but
it might be situated slightly to your left.
Yeah, it's to my right actually, but your left,
our left. Sure.
Yeah. Stage left.
Left, indeed. Yeah, no. So I think no, but I don't want to give up on that. I still feel that I would be interested in seeing if there's a way of early one evening when the shop might still be open or just closing up, whether it's possible to drop by and convince Robson that I don't know how I do it.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you want to start thinking about seeing if you can drop by.
Yeah,
sure. And I guess the first step towards that is just scouting the place out and seeing if you can go by at night at all. Because if you can't, then sure, absolutely. I believe, because I looked up where Robson Woodworking would be, and I think you actually said where Mr. Robson lives in London in your touchstone thing, although I might be wrong. It's in southwest London, I know that, but I can't remember precisely where it is. So it's in southwest London.
Cool.
And are you going to head over there and scout the place out?
Yeah, I'd probably get a taxi or something because it would be a long walk, and public transport's out for obvious Inquisition reasons. So.
Absolutely, and I realise with Mandrel, the fact that you kind of use this kind of headscarf almost as a bit of a cheat for Blush of Life, but I think it is what it is, and in a large city like London, it won't draw undue attention.
Yeah, if there's any kind of interaction I need to do with people more than kind of exchanging a tenner for getting a taxi, then I think
then you still use it because they can see some of your skin and it looks dead. And
I do it before initiating conversations. But yeah, and obviously for Mandrel, before moving up north, Mandrel character canonically comes from this part of London, so it would be a first revisit of kind of like southwest London for them, probably since they were before they were dead.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah, and I realize I've been talking about Blush of Life, and we didn't cover that for Alex for the library meeting. But I think, like I say, if we're scanning over time quickly, I'm not too bothered about it. So, yeah, you take a taxi to Southwest London, and you kind of find the street that the business is on. It's it's not a rough area, but it's not a particularly nice one either. It's just a kind of very average area, lots of kind of old terraced houses, and kind of like 24-hour stores and bits and pieces. But Robson Woodworking is quite unusual. You can see that it's like it's a large building, and it's maybe been adapted from an old stable or an old tanner's or something like that, because it has kind of like a little courtyard going in and a building around, and you can see, as you pass by, many of the lights are on. There is a sign outside kind of giving, the website and the phone number and saying, if you're interested in learning woodworking, we run this, and, apprenticeship schemes, internships, that kind of thing. And you can see through a window, like a large window is shining out kind of a soft yellow light on the street, and you can see a number of individuals there. Most of them look quite young, but not all of them, kind of working on large carpentry tables. Like a couple of them using, you can hear the bandsaw from across the street as they're doing that. And you see a figure, a vaguely recognizable kind of tall, kind of gaunt figure with grey hair, kind of walking between the kind of along and pausing and talking to them and moving around.
Well, I think I'd engage. I would, Blush of Life. And probably wander over and
sure,
start, trying to strike up conversation. If I recognise, do I recognise Robson as the person walking around?
As you walk closer, it's definitely Mr. Robson. I mean, obviously, he's older, much older than the last time you saw him. This would have been 25 years ago or so.
Yeah,
would it have been that you last interacted with him?
I'm not. Well, I was going to ask. I'm not sure what. In my mind, Robson was a teacher when Mandrill was kind of like teenage age, but I don't know what in your
you tell me how old. You tell me what year Mandrill was 16.
Oh my! I have it. I will be able to work it out from my character sheet.
Yeah,
I have this written down, but
vampire math.
It's been so long. Oh,
I'm guessing like the 80s, right?
Mandrill's 55, so
55 but in vampire-ness, right? Like
no, 55 in real life. So they would.
Sorry, that's what I mean. So you weren't embraced at 55. You were.
No, I look 35.
Right. Okay.
So I was born in 65, so it would be about the 80s. So it was about 40 years ago.
Sure. So 40 years ago. Okay. Well, let's say at that time, Mr. Robson was like in his early 30s or so. So now he's in his early 70s.
That fits my conception of how it
cool. Out. Okay. And as you walk in, he's kind of walking around between the things. All the students look very kind of focused on what they're doing, and you recognize this. He was a great teacher. That's why the memory of him is stuck with you so much. And as you walk in, someone who's kind of sat over at the side, kind of tapping away at a computer, kind of turns around and kind of does a slight double take, and stands up and comes over to you and says, "Sorry, this is you. If you're here for this class, you have to pre-book, but we could take your details and get in contact with you if you wanted to take a class."
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to see if I could get a chance to talk to Mr. Robson. I'm an old student of his, and I know he's probably very busy. But I was wondering whether it would be possible to have a few words. I've recently returned to London, and it'd be nice to. I was wondering if there's any chance at all of seeing him, perhaps after the class.
Possibly. I'll just go talk to him. If you don't mind waiting.
No, I've got all the time in the world.
The young man has a look of he definitely kind of doesn't have the look of a carpenter about him so much. Kind of his hands are very clean and kind of he's wearing a sort of just a t-shirt and jeans and seems to be maybe Robson hires him for the computer stuff, which you definitely know Mr. Robson would have no interest in doing whatsoever.
Sure.
And you stand there waiting for a couple of minutes, and then Mr. Robson comes over with the young man and kind of waves him off afterwards and says, "Former student."
Yeah, you probably don't remember me. I'm. It was before my incident, and I kind of slightly. I have done blush of life, as I said, but I kind of reveal a bit of my face and say, I probably don't look the same way that you remember me. A bad accident, and I try to cover myself.
Danny Pluck. You're Danny Pluck.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Jesus, I'm sorry for whatever it was.
You have a very good memory, Mr. Robson, to pick me out after all of that time.
I can remember everyone I've ever taught.
Well, I sent you an email a few days ago from my business address. You probably haven't.
Puzzle boxes.
It. Yeah, I got into them recently. I've really just been getting back into the hobby of working with my hands, and it's a little thing that I've been doing on this.
Well, why didn't you say it was you, girl?
I like to keep quite private. After the whole incident, it's personal.
Okay. Well, look, we're running a class here tonight, but we have a kind of open evening at the end of the weekend on Monday. Why don't you come along to that? Bring a sample of your work, and we'll talk about it.
That would be really helpful. Thank you.
All right.
I'll let you get back to your class.
You take care of yourself, all right?
Thanks.
He strides off quite. I mean, this is what he was like. He is a warm and caring individual, but he doesn't particularly show it. He's quite terse.
And I'm definitely taken aback by being remembered. And then I'm like, what am I doing in Southwest London? This was a terrible idea. I probably would watch the class start and see what the dynamic of the business is.
Sure.
See, who's he employing? Does it look like? Is it maybe still in the family? Is it still a family thing? So is it maybe his family that are working there? Does it look like the employees or things like that?
The only employee you can see there was the
computer
young
guy.
man. Yeah, the computer guy. He seemed to be doing it. He seems to be kind of. Otherwise, Robson seems to be kind of running the class himself. But it seems to be going very well. And his students, as you recognise from 40 years ago, obviously are quite taken with him. And are quite kind of seem to be being taught very well indeed. There we go. Is there any other things you want to do over these couple of nights? Because you've got 2 more slots, but don't feel the need to fill them.
I think that what I would like to do is try and make some kind of larceny roll to break into a workshop and steal some of the heavier tools that I don't want to buy.
Sure. Yeah.
That are probably out my price range.
I'm assuming not Robson's, though.
No. That would both be counterproductive and probably a stain.
Sure. Why don't you make me? Yeah, if you're breaking in, because we're talking about the entire act and not just the physical act of doing it.
I don't mind if it's like it takes 2 of my actions for the get. You know what I mean? Like.
Sure.
Prolonged
yeah. Well, let's see how you can say. Give me a resolve plus larceny roll first to see if you can case a joint out. And I'm going to set the difficulty for that at just 3.
I think there's basically no chance that I'll fail this because I got so much willpower reroll. But then again, I only got 2 successes and I only got 2 to reroll. So we'll see. I got 4 successes.
You find the perfect location. not in Mayfair. There aren't many carpentry workshops in Mayfair, but you kind of scout around for a while and you find one further to the west, kind of nearer Hillingdon. And you find, an ideal spot. And you know what? Give me then a dexterity, your choice of dexterity or wits. Plus,
we know which one that's going to be.
Plus larceny. And you can take an extra die as well to it for rolling so well on picking an ideal place that has the gear you want with very little security.
Easily accessible cameras.
Fives are not successes, are they?
No, sixes. No. 6 and up are successes. Yeah, the difficulty on this is 3.
I failed with sort of anything else I could do to not fail. But
have you not got another willpower roll?
Well, can you push again? I thought you could only do it. Is that
it's
only
not
one?
The same, but it's not the same roll.
No, even with a willpower reroll, I only get 2 successes.
Oh, I see what you mean. So you have used a willpower. No, you can't use it twice.
No. I think I can't remember if it's one of my abilities. I have some kind of like double reroll or was ability that I looked at that would allow me to do that, but I don't think I remember. So never mind.
No problem. Yeah, I probably should have allowed you to use strength as well, being as that's your thing, and that could also be a way of gaining access to somewhere. But it's done now, so yeah, you know this joint, and let's say you didn't like have a bestial failure or anything, right, or a messy critical, so you can always try again another night. But for now, you found the tools. You just have to figure out a way to get them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. It is. Maybe I realised that carrying out a bandsaw on my back, even though I could do it, probably would attract some attention. I need a van or something, really.
But maybe it's the kind of thing where you can take it apart a bit and shove the various components in a rucksack. I don't know. Yeah, maybe you need a van or something. Well, we can figure that out later.
I can load onto the van myself, but I need the van.
Sure. So, Oscar, you have 2 slots with which you can do something over these couple of nights.
Yep.
I'm assuming the interview candidates are a thing that you want to engage with.
Yes, the interview candidates and healing were the things that I had considered. So, probably the interview candidates first.
Absolutely. So I take it you're going to give them a call?
Yeah. Which one do I think is most likely to turn me down?
I don't think either of them are likely to turn you down.
Okay, I'll call Roni and Junius. Joni and Rubius.
Yeah, this is a new sitcom. So did you say, sorry, you called Roni first?
Yeah, I'll call Roni first.
Okay, she answers the phone and just says, "You got Roni."
Hi.
Every time.
It's Oscar from the other night.
Oh, hi, Oscar. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah. Well, I obviously after our little chat, our discussion, I think that you're a really, really good candidate for the job. One thing I was considering at the time, but now I'm considering more thoroughly is, would you be amenable to part-time hours?
Absolutely. If you think that he can be trusted.
I do. Why would you think he couldn't be?
I'd have no information one way or another, Oscar. It's just both Sarah and myself would advise caution. That's all.
Oh, okay.
It's a dangerous place, as you well know.
Yeah. You seem to be a very knowledgeable person, and I'd be glad to have you aboard.
I'm delighted to hear that.
Is there any particular restriction on your schedule?
No, I'll come in for whatever days you want me to.
Okay, well, I'll say some days. Every other day.
Yeah, alternate them, whatever.
Alternate it. Yeah, well, I look forward to having a more elaborate chat with you and Sarah at some point soon.
That absolutely might happen. One thing I'd say, and this is, from I know you might not want to hear these things from me, but Sarah asked me to emphasize this very strongly, that you probably shouldn't tell Astrid.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay, that's great. I'll well, obviously I won't see you when I'm on shift, except at the end. But I'll see you then after my first shift.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Bye. She hangs up.
She hung up on you again.
She didn't say bye, to be fair.
I did not say bye. I was like, at the point at which she hung up, I had my head in my hands and I was just going, oh. Yeah. Well, I knew what I was signing up for. Come on, Oscar, you can do this. The next one will be easier.
I love that there's so much stress in you making these calls to hire people.
Yeah.
Like, you're experiencing the same stress that other people do when receiving this call.
Yeah, well, what can I say? I'm nothing if not a coward. All right.
That's a clip right there.
I will gather myself,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll call Junius.
I assume this is all happening from either from a payphone or from the phone in your shop.
Yes, from the phone in my shop if it's convenient.
Makes sense.
After maybe my hunting or something.
Absolutely, Mr. Kane. It is excellent to hear from you.
Yes, Junius. It's great to hear from you as well. I thought about you, and I think that I'd really like you to come and work for me in my shop. There is one small thing. I'm sure it'll be okay, but if not, let me know. Are you okay with, say, working every other day? Does that work for you?
I would find this acceptable. Obviously, I would prefer to spend as much time in the facility as possible. But I would ask you this, Mr. Kane. Can she be trusted?
Absolutely. Why on earth could one ever not trust someone else?
It is not that I do not trust your judgment, Mr. Kane. I am realistic about the effort and expertise that I bring to the table, and I would not want such efforts of you or I to be diluted by some slip of a girl.
Sure. Well, I'm sure that your excellent work ethic and approach will rub off on her, even though you are working on different days. But I'm sure during the crossover period, there will be some amount of rubbing. No, wait, that came out wrong. I am sure everything.
I take your meaning, Mr. Kane, and I look forward to. Will you be there for my first shift?
I think it would be prudent for me to. When can you start?
I would note, by the way, in Storyteller that unless you're planning on waking during the day, which you can't, then you can't be there for his first shift.
Oh yeah, of course. I'll be there in the evening.
Could send a representative.
Very well. If you send me a set of keys and perhaps write down anything in particular that you wish to be taken care of on a piece of paper and leave it on a desk, then I will be able to take care of that for you. I will prove myself to you, Mr. Kane.
Brilliant. That sounds great. I will get a piece of paper.
Excellent. I look forward to a very productive and revealing business relationship.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. All right. Goodbye.
Hang up first.
Yeah. No, I'm
Put it down as quickly.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
That's a lawsuit right there. You gotta nip that stuff in the bud right there.
This is an HR disaster. That's all I'm saying.
Nothing will go wrong. Everything is planned out
God.
and thoughtful.
Roni's going to get him fired with a HR lawsuit because he refers to her as a slip of a girl.
Well, I think I have more
I
things
think
to worry
they're
about.
both going to. They're both gonna take Oscar to some kind of tribunal for suggesting
Right,
that
sure,
they're
we can
against
finish
each
sure
other.
there'll be no kind of rubbing.
Right
No
now,
rubbing.
it definitely does feel though you have to maybe toss a coin over which one of them is more dangerous. So yeah, there we go.
Well, go big or go home. You know,
Should have gone with
Absolutely.
Dave.
Problem
Yeah,
sorted.
what would have been his deal? I wonder.
Dave's a good
Just so you know,
candidate.
because Dave is not going to reappear in our story. Dave was not any kind of. Dave was just a hardworking man looking for a job.
Yeah, sure. Whatever. Second Inquisition.
Of course.
Spy.
So, Oscar, you have one more kind of time slot available to you before these couple of days pass. Is there anything in particular you want to do with that?
So heal myself is
Oh,
one
yes.
thing. If that's
Sorry,
very
yes.
quick, then the other thing was
I
researching.
think the idea is in healing. I'm not sure. Do you, strictly speaking, need rest, Neill, if you're a vampire?
It happens during day sleep, so you don't
Right.
heal aggravated damage separately. You just you do it whilst sleeping.
Is it possible to observe myself healing?
No, because it happens during day sleep. I suppose you could set up a camcorder.
Yeah. Do we have any cameras?
That's such a great idea.
I
You know
mean,
what?
you do.
Let's
No,
record ourselves.
That's not actually
Let's
true. You do
let's
have
get-
security cameras.
We have
You do
Let's get a
security
digital record of you magically healing as you sleep.
No, but I'm
in
just
a
like,
crypt, like
I'm
maybe
actually-
surrounded by dirt and or a coffin,
I am
and then
curious.
I'm a vampire on your
fluttering
face.
around.
Come on, let's let Pierre talk.
I am curious about this. I want to know how this works.
That's perfectly reasonable. Well, you know what? That can be what you do. Then you can try attempt
to
maybe in
record
concert
myself.
with Mandrill to rig up a security camera so it's aiming at you overnight, so you can record yourself healing.
Yes.
How about that? Can you give me a intelligence plus technology roll, please? And are you engaging Mandrill's help in this, or are you trying to keep
Yes.
it kind of okay?
I am going to be letting Mandrill know. Could you set up a camera filming me sleep?
I mean, it's bold of you to assume I haven't already.
Okay. Could you give me temporary access to the camera that films me
This
while I
is-
sleep? I
It's
want
got all kinds of off the rails.
This is obviously a masquerade breach.
Obviously,
But having said that, that footage ain't going anywhere, and you could simply,
Yeah.
if Oscar wants to watch it and then delete it,
what pervert?
that would be in theory fine.
that would
Yeah.
be my
I think that that is for. I do think that there's something deeply perverse about that. I just feel that's upsetting. But I think the safest thing to do would be to we can very easily buy an old digital camera for like 30 quid and destroy it completely after you've recorded this thing. I think rather than taking apart my security system,
okay.
that's easily done.
Okay.
Cool. I'm actually going to judge that this. I think you can safely do that. What's your resources, Oscar?
I have
It's like
resources
2
too.
or something.
Yeah.
You can go do that and have your own digital camera and use this.
Yes.
And I think we'll take up the slot by that conversation and going to buy the camera and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
blah.
And
that's
lots of you calling you perverse for wanting
Yes.
to do
So moving on now to the actual healing aggravated damage. Can you rouse your blood 3 times, please?
Yeah, so that's dice pool 1. So 1 failure, 1 success,
Good, you're not 4.
2 failures.
Okay, so you're on hunger 3 now.
Yeah.
But you can get rid of 1 aggravated damage. How much does that leave you with?
Just 1.
Just 1. Okay, you're doing all right.
Yeah, I'm
You're doing all right.
feeling better.
It's all fine. It's all fine.
I'm nearly
this has been
recovering
real.
from scars.
Absolutely. So there we go. So let's move on to Arthur. Arthur, you have 2 slots of activity here for these couple of nights. What are you choosing to do with those? I guess we also need to look at your what's the state of your willpower damage like?
I've spent 1 willpower and I got 2 aggravated willpower damage.
Okay.
I
So 2
don't know
aggravated
how-
and 1 superficial, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, your natural restoration of your superficial willpower doesn't kick in this session because, as regular viewers might know, we're kind of doing things that happen every other session, essentially, because otherwise it's too much for these kind of hour and a half, hour 45 minute sessions. So you don't get that automatically recovered. So only acting to further your desire can recover superficial willpower damage otherwise. And the aggravated damage, you heal if at the start of a session you acted in accordance with your ambition last session. What is your current ambition?
Establishment.
Okay.
As in, like, getting myself established in London.
Getting yourself established in London. Okay. Well, those ticks will happen. We've said before it's an odd, dodgy one, but I don't think you've done anything since last session to warrant that, obviously, but we could argue that you did it in last session. Because
I did get my herd established.
You did. You know what? I am persuaded. Recover a point of aggravated willpower. It's difficult to do this one with the alternate session thing because it kind of muddies it in terms of last session and doing your desire. So I think we need to play a bit fast and loose with this one a little bit, though I'm open to counter arguments. But for the purposes of this, let's just say, yeah, you've recovered a point of aggravated willpower.
Okay,
it's probably
good.
quite a relief.
Yes, definitely.
So, with that in mind, what are you doing in these 2 time slots?
Have I received any correspondence from my contacts on the continent?
You have not.
Then I'm going to go and have a friendly chat with Terence.
Okay. So are you using kind of one slot to try and scope him out a bit, and the other slot for the actual, talk?
That would probably be sensible.
Sure. Well, why don't you give me, because you've got a creep on this guy essentially, right? So why don't you give me your choice of either wits or dexterity, plus subterfuge? I think that's or plus your choice of subterfuge or stealth. Does that make sense?
Let's go for subterfuge.
Wits or dex plus subterfuge or stealth.
In case it affects narrative, I'm going for wits and subterfuge, which is a total of 6.
I think that's reasonable, and that gives me the impression that you're not like creeping around his house or anything. You're kind of like maybe you found a bench opposite his house to kind of sit on and kind of play act with a mobile phone or something like that.
Sure.
He lives in Mayfair, by the way.
Oh, interesting. 4 successes.
Fantastic. He lives in kind of a large, what we'd call, I guess, a townhouse. What Americans would maybe call a brownstone, and on a very expensive road. Neill definitely mouthed brownstone there in disbelief, but I assure you it is what they call them, like on the East Coast, like a tall terraced house. With an iron railing outside, quite an expensive sports car outside, and as you're watching quite patiently, a man comes out from that house. You're pretty sure this is the guy. He's sort of, the place he's living in marks him out clearly as, upper middle class, upper class, but he's dressed, kind of popped collar. Lacoste shirt, slacks, kind of. He's dressed to look like a bit of a lad, but you know this individual. You've met him 1,000 times before. He's a posh boy playing with the rough kids, and he kind of walks out of his house on his mobile phone, talking loudly, kind of masking his received pronunciation accent with slang, and he's kind of hanging out, kind of sort of yelling at the phone at someone while standing by his sports car. You don't have to engage him now. You could choose a different time to actually engage him. Just the opportunity is here if you want it. Depends what kind of approach you want to take, I guess.
I kind of don't want. I'm not planning on doing it. I'm not planning on doing anything really showy, but sure. I kind of don't want to address him in the middle of the street.
No, that's fair.
So I think I will lurk slightly more.
Perhaps,
Professional duty.
perhaps we could say that what you do is wait for him to return. So you know he's in, and then you can...
Knock on the door. Yep,
Sure.
I'm happy with that.
He drives off somewhere in his sports car. He's gone for an hour or two before he comes back and kind of steps out of his car. And can you give me a resolve plus insight roll, please?
Resolve plus. Ooh. Okay, it's only 3 dice.
And the difficulty is going to be 2.
I'm going to willpower that because I rolled a flat nothing. I again rolled a flat nothing.
Okay, that's fine. He walks up to his front door and goes in.
All right. I will wait maybe 20 minutes to make it look like I haven't just been waiting for him to get back. And then I will go up and knock on the door.
Okay. Shortly after you knock on the door, you hear a voice kind of muffled somewhere inside going, "Fucking hell." And footsteps leading up to the door, and he kind of swings it open. Now that you are this close to him, it's very obvious that you don't know if, in your professional opinion, it's probably not alcohol. But he clearly is someone who partakes as well as trades. He kind of blurrily peers at you and goes, "Yeah?"
Good evening. I was wondering if I could step in and speak to you for a moment.
What about? It's fucking 1 o'clock in the morning.
I'm here on behalf of Harry.
Why are you here on behalf of Harry? What does that little shit want?
Well, for one thing, he would like fewer black eyes.
Well, then maybe he shouldn't start Wait, are you his new fucking dealer?
Charles Sherwood, pleased to meet you. I was
Terrence
hoping we
G.
could speak like professionals.
All right. Why don't you come in? He kind of
Thank you.
steps to one side and goes to kind of close the door. Are you kind of stepping in through the door?
No, I'm going to invite myself in.
That's what I'm saying. Like, are you?
Yes, I'm stepping through the door.
Okay. He closes the door and swings at you.
Right.
With that in mind, why don't we? So that would be that, and they're rounding. What is your reaction to this? Are you going to try and dodge it, or are you going to try and attack him back immediately?
I'm going to try and dodge.
Okay, give me a dexterity plus athletics roll, please.
Okay.
And I just need to briefly look up because I always forget whether it's rounding up or rounding down. It's rounding down, so the difficulty is 2.
Oh, that's a point. I was going to... No, I'm going to dodge. And I'm going to willpower.
Okay.
And I'm going to fail.
Okay. That's absolutely
Nice.
fine. So my mouse cursor has disappeared, which is exciting.
Cool.
Again, I cannot believe that my battery is gone for a second week in a row on stream, which seems somewhat unlikely, doesn't it?
And on a wired mouse of all things.
Can we help you with any rules?
No, it's okay. It's back. It's back. It's all back. So I have the. So what? When you say you failed, how much?
Failed
did you
by
fail?
1. I got one.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So that leaves him with a margin of 1 and no damage value. So just go ahead, and that's rounded up, divided by 2, and rounded up, which is 1, I guess. So take 1 point of superficial damage.
Okay.
He punches you directly in the face. So he is going to attempt to. You haven't fallen over from this unless you want to.
Nope.
So he is going to strike at you again. What are you doing?
I'm going to, if I can, look him right in the eye
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Put your hands down."
Okay. I'm assuming you're using compel for this,
Correct.
the dominate power. Yeah, that's fine. I don't want to get into a big combat with this. Like, I can say that you can definitely do that right now. So why don't you make whatever? Actually, on mortals, am I correct in saying you don't have to make a roll anymore?
I only roll if he's actively trying to avoid my gaze.
No, he is not. No.
Is that
Neill, sorry,
correct,
what were you
Neill?
going to say?
Either avoiding your gaze, and that's a different role to if he's somehow resisting the dominate itself, which would require him to be prepared and know about the possibility of dominate.
Yeah, he's got to be realistically, he's got to be like a ghoul or a hunter or something to resist. No, absolutely. Okay, yeah. So tell me about how long does compel last in this specific circumstance, according to your understanding?
In this specific circumstance, it's a single action command. So theoretically, as soon as he's done it, he is then free.
Sure.
But
I think he's quite taken aback by this, and kind of his hands do drop to his side, and he says, "What?"
I'm glad you saw reason. Now, you're going to leave Harry alone.
What are you? Oh, what's in the shit? Are you fucking hypnotizing me or some shit?
Sure, whatever. Clearly, you need to find a better class of dealer.
I've already got another fucking supplier. You can keep Harry. Just fuck off, all right?
And you'll leave him alone. On social aspects as well as professional.
Sure, I'll leave him alone. Fuck off. Fucking freak.
All right.
That's not very respectful.
I'm glad we could have this talk.
He's kind of yelling at you, kind of, get the fuck out of my house. Kind of, he seems to have been quite disturbed by this. Obviously, if if he was properly kind of compos mentis, this might maybe be considered a masquerade breach. But like in his current state, you imagine that he'll pass this off as some kind of bad trip, essentially.
If he even fully remembers it.
I mean, let's hope he does. Otherwise, it's all been in vain, right?
Well, that's true.
So yeah, sure. You walk away back to Down Street, and I think that takes us up to date with everyone's activities over these 2 nights. That took a bit longer than I thought, but there's some good stuff in there, right? So it's all good. It's all good. So we are now on the following the next night. We are on the 5th night of this week. Some people will call that Friday, and you are just the futility of trying to count weeks without nailing ourselves to days is something I struggle with. So you have an appointment at midnight at the Roman Fort Gate in the City of London. It is, in fact, not very far from the amphitheatre, which acted as an impromptu Elysium. So, yes. What preparations are we making? What are we doing? I think it's fair to say that we could all have a little talk about this in Down Street.
Is this the Rowena meeting, or am I?
No, this is the meeting with Rosa Barwi.
Okay.
What do we know about her?
Have you managed to read her file?
No, I've been a little busy, and I like nervously glance at the camera that is like on the side.
I was wondering if anyone was going to take the time to check her file, but no.
Didn't we check it briefly?
We checked it briefly. Yeah.
You've examined it superficially, yeah, but like I say, the translating of Jack's shorthand.
Yeah, I didn't have time.
Roles, which Oscar's already started that task with Aish, but no one's carried it out on Rose's files.
Yeah, we probably don't have time at this point. Yeah. So, I guess we're going in a little blind. Alex, what do you know?
I believe that she likes art. And of course, we know that she is a Toreador. I think we had a slight rapport on the phone call. She seemed quite pleased from my attempt to contact. I believe We should play it by ear and speak in generalities until we find out more. I also, however, suspect that she may not be the most circumspect with regards to the Second Inquisition. She mentioned the word ghoul on a public payphone. Please do not use, and I mentioned the address of whatever it is, where that payphone was, anymore, just in case.
I picked up on a gesture that Pierre made there, which I'm assuming was an Oscar gesture, although maybe
Yeah.
Pierre as well. I think it's perfectly valid that Oscar, and indeed maybe Pierre, has no clue what a Toreador is.
Yeah. I think from context, I'm picking up that it's a clan.
Mm-hmm.
Toreador? Clan? What are they like?
Say, Alex?
Well, they typically like art and music, and they are the ones, and they are the ones responsible for. Typically, they have tended to be the ones who kept Elysiums. They keep the arts running. They run museums, all kinds of things like that. They. Please do not take any offense at this manual. You know how I enjoy your company and your presence greatly. But they may be thought of as the opposite of a Nosferatu. They love beauty and excess and dramatic appearances and language and floweriness, but are less, sometimes prejudiced towards those of Clan Nosferatu.
But you think she's a creator?
I believe so, yes.
Then I will dip my clothes in turpentine and other finishes, and I'll try to at least convey the image that I also work with my hands.
Fantastic.
Perhaps you'd be interested in some of your boxes.
I don't think that a show and tell would necessarily. I think that might be a bit too on the nose. But I can wear my work clothes, and it can be apparent from that maybe that will be enough to make my presence acceptable. But Alex, if you think it's best if I'm not there, I think that would be understandable. You know her best.
Just quickly, is Oscar wearing the ring?
Yes.
Okay. I do not feel there should be any difficulty with you being there. She did say that all of us were welcome, which is something most rare from guests we have spoken to these nights. However, I do think that whilst you should be there, you, just in case, please be alert to if we are assaulted by Second Inquisition coming after ghoul speakers or something of that ilk.
Yeah. Okay.
And was there anything else further to this conversation before we proceed to the meeting?
Only that. But yes, if you would, as I have made the first introduction, if you would let me handle the initial introductions and see if the rapport that we have established is real or simply in my imagination, and we will see what goes from there.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for you to take the lead. Maybe Arthur, you seem like you also have a kind of hedonistic bent. Perhaps you might have something to offer, Rose.
Perhaps on a related note, I could deal with the pleasantries, and Arthur, if you would care to deal with the formal, bureaucratic, Camarilla, just jurisdiction aspect, should it become necessary.
That would probably be more fitting than offering them stims. Yes.
Yes. Quite.
Okay.
It seems like we have an approach here. So, with that in mind, as I said, the Roman Fort Gate is in the city of London. Previously, when we've gone there, you've just walked there because it's not very far. It's about 45. I think you said 50-minute walk. Which I realised many people might be a long walk, but not to us hardy folk. Where it came from.
clarify something as an aside to non-British viewers, because this took me surprisingly long to learn. The City of London is a place in London,
Yes,
where London is a
sorry,
city
yeah.
and also a county.
Like and it is very much central to London, and everything has grown out from that. But the City of London is effectively the city centre of London.
So Greater London and the City of London are different.
Yeah.
And just also to clarify, so Mandrill is changing and isn't wearing the things that they normally leave the Haven with. They're dressed in like their overalls. They've got pencils and things sticking out. Like they're wearing their workshop clothes.
So and they maybe
exaggerated
have a smell of turpentine and fresh wood and
things like that.
Yeah, sure. I think that's a good approach.
Alex is wearing pretty much the same thing Alex normally wears, but just making sure they're the newest, clean versions.
The most, yes, your fancy identical clothes.
Yes.
Cool. So you walk through the streets of London at night, first Mayfair and then perhaps through Soho and into the City of London. It's as it was, before. It's a busy capital and no one particularly pays attention to you because there are so many people around. And as you proceed into the City of London itself, obviously it gets busier and brighter and louder and though, starts maybe not overwhelming your senses, but even vampires without heightened senses have, the senses of a predator or a more prominent in you than they are in than they were in life, and the environment is very stimulating and not entirely in a good way. It maybe sets your teeth slightly on edge. You proceed around some office space and turn a corner, and there ahead of you is the Roman fort gate, which Steve has an image which we day for nighted into being a bit more appropriate for vampires. But that's what it is. It's a relatively small ruin, slap bang in the middle of London. It does what it says on the tin. It is the Roman fort gate. I don't know if you can see entirely clearly there, but there is an entranceway kind of just off to the left center of the image there. The entire thing is surrounded by a kind of a very low iron fence. You can just step over it like a bit of protected parkland. You cannot see anyone, and there are quite a few people kind of walking by, but no one seems to be paying much attention to it.
This is very outdoors.
The whatever is inside through that doorway does seem to be entirely enclosed.
Right. Does it also look like the kind of place that if we were normal tourists, we shouldn't go into?
Correct. Yes, or at least when it's not open. There are some signs saying when the fort gate is open for little tours and stuff.
Right.
I will wander over to it as if an interested tourist and gently tug on the door as if, going, oh, I wonder maybe it's still open.
Oh, sorry, I didn't make it clear, and obviously the photo is quite dark. That is an archway, not a doorway. So you can just walk through.
Then I will walk over as if an innocent tourist I walk through.
Mm-hmm. Are other people going to follow Alex in this?
With a bit of a glance around to see if anyone is watching, yes.
I will also have heightened senses up.
Sure. Do I need to ask Mandrill, do you have Sense the Beast active?
Yes. And I'm probably kind of leaning against the wall on the outside, kind of just until I hear that there's stuff going on, that there's noises from inside, I'll just be keeping watch outside.
Sure. Oscar, are you following Alex and Arthur in?
Yeah.
That's fair enough. Mandrill, do you have to make I believe you have to make a roll for Sense of the Beast? Yes.
Yeah. So if it needs to be targeted against an individual that I'm kind of aware of, but there is I think as we've agreed, there's like very limited, very super immediate danger sense. So
yes.
if someone's about to swing at me, then I don't have to be targeting.
But for example, in this case, if you're trying to sense that there is a kindred within this ruin, I don't think you can do that. You have to be aware of them first, right?
Yeah, I think we've said that's beyond the limits of the discipline.
Absolutely, that's fine. In that case, Mandrill, you're kind of wandering around the outside, kind of sort of keeping watch. Alex, Arthur, and Oscar, you proceed inside and kind of round the corner. Inside seems to be kind of like two rough chambers, obviously, but completely open to the night. The roofing and upper floors of long, collapse centuries, if not millennia ago. And as you proceed into the first chamber, which is sort of squarish, you can see off to the side, the intervening wall is kind of there in places, but there is a circular chamber, perhaps the base of what was once a fort tower, is a far more open and large, empty area inside this London fort gate. And in there is standing a figure. She is kind of average height, a relatively full build, and is dressed in sort of modestly fashionable clothes, a penciled skirt, an art design shirt and jacket. She is evidently of perhaps of Middle Eastern heritage, long dark straight hair, and kind of is facing you as you come in with a sort of very gentle, faint smile. And she kind of looks between you one by one, and then strides quite confidently towards Alex and extends her hand and says, "It is such a relief to meet someone at last."
I will take the hand and clasp it warmly and says, "And likewise, it is pleasant to have such a warm reception."
A fellow sibling, a child after all this time. I'm overwhelmed.
Yes, it is truly wondrous. These are my companions.
She kind of blinks as if kind of only realizing the other two are there, and then kind of extends her hand to Arthur and Oscar, and each time says, Rose.
Please,
Arthur Norris.
I'm Oscar.
She kind of nods politely and kind of faintly smiles at you for a second, and then just her attention returns entirely to Alex.
We are delighted to meet you. There are so many things we would love to discuss.
Yes, there very much are, and well, why don't you tell me what brought you here to me first?
Well, there are many signs which brought us to brought us here. Many pieces of floating that I was able to discern, but the reason we're here on this particular night is that we are part of a mission to re-engage the city, to bring it back into the fold of the Camarilla, and we were asked to approach you as part of this mission to try to bring all those who were once officers of the court back into our society.
Yes, I mean, I suppose that is a fair first step in a way. I'm a little bit confused by your talk of the Camarilla. Well, it is not for me to decide, I suppose. But what of, I mean, and she leans close to you and talks kind of quietly, but very easily enough for Arthur and Oscar to hear, and says, You did find the bull.
Yes, I found the bull, and that is the second reason I wish to talk to you. But it's just the issue of the Camarilla that we must handle first. That is why our companions are here.
I suppose, yes. So these, I did talk to Anasoff, and I know of your wider concerns here, and that there are other elders. Do they wish to speak to me?
They would very much love to speak with you.
And are there others?
I do not believe so.
But what of... And her eyes light up as she sees Oscar's ring. And she says, but there are others. There are others here with us. No, she is not listening to you as you're doing this. Unless you want to physically restrain her, she's going to step forward and grasp Oscar's hand.
I will whisper very quickly in her ear, Clandramere.
Yes, but here, clan matters not in the grand scheme of things. What matters is you believe a brother, another brother, after all this time.
I am afraid not.
She looks very kind of confused at this.
It is mere providence. It was a sign that we were on the right path. If I get the slightest moment, I try and give both Oscar and Arthur a look as if to just ask for patience.
I'm gonna try and exchange a glance with Oscar to see whether I feel like I've been left out of something.
Like, I think when she first mentioned the bull, I'll be like, I was silently mouthing to Arthur, the bull? Bull?
She nods and says, this is... Maybe I should have expected this. Perhaps I was anticipating too much, but you are here, and that is enough. I will meet with your elders. I am happy to do so, but also she kind of reaches inside her jacket and pulls out what can charitably be described as a notebook, and less charitably as kind of a loosely bound wad of paper that has lots of scribbling over it. Even like visibly from here, because bits of paper are coming out, you can see that there are kind of two distinct writing styles in it. One that seems to have been quite neat, and the other which is much more haphazard and kind of seems to be drawing notes around it. She thrusts it forward to Alex.
Thank you so much. I will pore through its wisdom and treasure it.
Yes, I have my own copy, but you please do. I have tried to add what else I know, but the main bulk of it is from Regina, and she knew so much. She knew so much, Alex. Yes.
I will make a big show of clasping it close to my heart.
Okay. Let's briefly hop to outside. Mandrill.
Yeah.
Can you make me a resolve?
Oh, I can.
Plus awareness roll, please. Difficulty is going to be high, I'll tell you that. Difficulty 4.
I got a bestial failure with 3 successes. I could re-roll one.
Do you want to re-roll that?
Do I want to be secret driven for the rest of the thing or not? Yeah, why not? I've got willpower to burn. And I got 4 successes with my re-roll. So no bestial failure.
So you're on 4 successes.
I've so much willpower.
As you're wandering around, you slowly come to the realization that there are no people walking on the path nearby anymore. And as you kind of glance around, just to kind of look if there's anyone, you see that further down the road, there is and it's quite a way away. You're not surprised you didn't hear it, but there is basically, like a police barrier has been set up a little bit further down the road, and there is an individual kind of who looks to be in policeman's gear stood there turning someone away. And you look down the other. You look down the road the other way. There's another one.
And these are new barriers.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, I might signal to the group that something strange is going on.
How are you going to signal this? Because obviously you're on the outside of this building at the moment, so presumably you're going to go inside and.
No, if there's any like I don't know whistling.
I don't think you have any.
crass.
No, I think that was. I don't think you have any prearranged signals.
In which case, if it's possible to, it sounds like I might be able to like move to the door, the archway, and keep a view of things, and kind of, make a low kind of like not a shout, but
yeah, sure.
But tell them that way. I want to keep my eyes on the outside if possible.
What are you calling out?
There's some. I should say that there's some police activity out here. Someone wants detention.
Oh shit!
I believe that maybe our signal that we should leave.
Can everyone who is in there? So we'll exclude Mandrill from this. Can everyone who's in there make a wits plus awareness roll, please? It has slightly varied difficulty. I'm going to say that for Oscar and Arthur, it's difficulty 4, and for Alex, it's difficulty 3, because I think you're closer to Rose.
2 questions. Does instinct apply? Awareness specialty?
No.
Does heightened senses apply?
Yes.
I got 1 success rolling 4 dice.
Okay, I got 1. Sorry.
Nope, you go.
No, mine will be far more interesting.
I failed.
Okay.
And I'm not going to willpower it.
With 9 dice, I had 1 success. So I willpowered it and got 4 successes.
Okay.
It's quite a difference.
You kind of hear Mandrill saying, kind of glance over at Mandrill and glance back to Rose. Rose has a small red dot on her chest.
I will quickly try and shove her down if I can.
Okay. Sure, give me a dexterity plus. God, I'm almost tempted to say brawl rather than athletics because, well, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
sense.
dexterity plus brawl roll, please. And I'm going to set that at a difficulty of 3, I think.
I'm going to blood surge it because this seems important.
Sure.
Avoiding sniper rifle fire always just seems important to me.
Yeah.
Somebody with a laser pointer just being like, "Oh yeah, she's over there."
I failed my rouse check and 3 successes.
Okay. You kind of quickly knock her down, and she kind of sprawls and gives a kind of like a surprised cry, and there is a loud crack that echoes around the London Fort gate, and like a patch of earth kind of further down behind her just kind of explodes out from the ground. It's entirely obviously, I think Alex will have gathered what's going on, and Mandrill is probably more on edge, but it's up to Arthur and Ossie if you realise that a shot has been taken.
How loud was that?
Very loud.
Right, I penalties.
I don't know. What with your heightened senses, you mean? It is a gunshot, but it's from, without going into details, it's from, a higher up building nearby. So
then assume I've turned it off now in advance.
Yeah. I'd say it's uncomfortable, but I'm not going to give you any penalties.
Yeah, sure.
I think I can probably together.
I don't particularly want to go into combat rounds in this. So why don't we just go around in kind of, I think, the order of preparedness and say what we're going to do off the top of this. So let's actually start with Mandrill because Alex has just shoved someone, right? So Mandrill, what are you going to do? Do you want us to come back to you?
Please.
Alex, what are you going to do?
Crawl and kind of drag Rose if I need to towards our wall. So I don't know where I am, but basically I want to try and get towards an exit, but not if towards the exit means going in the direction where I can work out the gunshot must have come from based on where the red dot is. Does that make sense?
It does come from the rough direction of the entrance, but there is only one entrance unless you want to climb these old walls.
then then just climb into something vaguely resembling out of line of sight due to walls and stuff the best I can whilst crawling.
Sure. So basically, like move essentially towards where the shots come from, but get flush against that round wall. Yeah, sure. How about I'm going to say Oscar is more prepared, because even though he's generally less prepared, I think he's more freaked out by having his ring examined.
Yeah.
Let's skip over what I just said. So yeah, Oscar.
So I would like. So I'm aware. Obviously, I think I'm like there was just a sniper shot. So I would like to work out. I like to see if I can figure out where it came from approximately, and figure out if I can see or work out a path that doesn't get shot at. Like, what's a good path, and then like try and direct it to it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, why don't you give me a wits plus firearms roll? Yeah, and let's just. I won't set a difficulty for this. Just tell me what you get.
Okay. That's 2 successes.
Okay. You're pretty sure that it came from a building facing the entrance to here. If you want to get out of the entrance, if you want to leave this place, you have 2 choices. You climb up these old, fairly tall brick walls, stone walls, or you leave that entrance, which is 100% guaranteed to be within the firing line of whoever shot, because they shot from high from the side with the entrance on. So clearly they would have a shot at you leaving at the entrance. But also, like, otherwise you're basically pinned in, right?
Yeah. Right. I think if we're behind cover, like if everyone is behind cover, then the first person out is the safest, followed by like whoever's the second person out is the one who's going to get shot. So I'll direct, I think, the other people to go before me, and then I'll try and go out second.
Okay.
And I'm going to try and do a distraction, like run.
Okay. So you're kind of like waving and shouting for people to run.
Yeah, to go.
Sure. Arthur, what are you doing?
I'm drawing my shock stick, trying to jump into some amount of cover, probably not entirely following what Oscar's plan is, and saying, Mandrill, are you still out there?
You can see Mandrill. Mandrill's in the doorway.
Mandrill's cursing.
Yes. Well, what is Mandrill doing?
Is there any cover that I could slip behind and obfuscate? Like anything that could break a line of sight for someone watching me? So
sure. Like this is all predicated on you knowing exactly where the shot came from, and that it is one individual. So you know the rough direction the shot came from. You could try and duck flush behind a wall facing that and obfuscate. Yeah, you can try that.
I would like to try that.
Can I ask a question about obfuscate? About your specific obfuscate? If someone can see you, does it work?
It fails if you're being actively observed. So if somebody's watching me, so that's why I'm looking for somewhere where I can break that line of observation.
Sure.
Which might involve if the most like, sensible way of doing that is to duck inside the wall.
I absolutely. But my point, of course, is that you don't exactly know the situation.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and this feels weird. Like you duck to one side, and I guess if you're being observed, it just like the power doesn't trigger
exactly.
or something.
If someone's watching you, you can't. They can follow you.
Okay, and I guess you can know that, which is a weird way for you to gain information.
I can't know that. So,
but you know that the obfuscate hasn't worked.
I guess I think I'm obfuscated, or I am obfuscated, but I'm not for the person who is watching me.
No, it definitely. No, we won't do it that way. Yeah, it's just a weird way where you get information for something not working. I guess, which is, it's just odd. You duck to the side and you can't obfuscate.
Okay.
And as everyone is doing this, Alex is kind of bunched up against the wall, trying to get Rose to do the same, flush against it. Oscar is kind of making some motion towards that archway and kind of trying to get everyone to go out ahead of him. Arthur has ducked but behind again, flush behind a wall, and is kind of ready to shock stick. Mandrel has ducked to the side as well. There are people can make a roll if they want to count how many cracks there are, but there are quite a few of them. Alex, next to you, Rose kind of bucks wildly and like. At first, you think perhaps like you know inside your mind you're like, is she having a fit of some kind? Before you realize kind of like you're being spattered with blood as multiple rounds slam into her body. You can't tell what direction they're coming from. You think they're coming from all round.
I'm just going to keep dragging.
Sure. With this in mind, and with everyone kind of aware of this, you can all see that this is happening. Mm-hmm. Does Oscar's plan start to make more sense to people who aren't Oscar? Of like running. Clearly, they have you surrounded.
Yeah, that was my next thing. Of okay, we're being shot anyway. I'm just going to run. Although, not because of Oscar. I wasn't paying any attention to him whatsoever.
Oh yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Is anyone not doing that?
I'm not running first. That's not what Mandrel would be making sure everyone's running.
Sure. I think it's safe to say that unless anyone objects, people are now trying to flee through the entrance.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I think there's only one roll that need to be made. Alex, can you give me a strength plus athletics roll to try and carry Rose, please? And I'm going to make that it's an odd thing where I guess the challenge of it somewhat depends on your capability, but I think it's a challenging thing to do. I'm going to set it at a difficulty of 4.
Oh.
Then
I'm not going to try that at all. I'm just going to say I need help.
Okay. Is anyone else going to help with Rose?
If Alex needs help, Mandrel will carry them.
Okay. Why don't we then? So if you're both working on it, I mean, it has to be a roll primarily made by one person, and then with help from other people. So Mandrel is stronger. Give me a strength plus athletics roll, and add. Do you have athletics, Alex?
Yes, 1 dot.
Cool. Then have an extra dot, and if any of your potence somehow applies, I don't know if it does.
Only if activated.
Yeah, sure. But I think you have one for feats of strength, right? And I guess this is a feat of strength.
I do, but I'd have to do a rouse check for it, and I'm
sure
low. Neill, in Alex's tone of voice, how important is it to Alex that we successfully do this?
Critical.
Then I will re-roll. I will spend a point of willpower because I rolled 1 success on 7 die.
Right. Yeah, and this is difficulty 4, so. And remember, you don't re-roll hunger dice.
We can't do it.
Yeah, she's not a small woman, and she's completely dead weight. Like it's very difficult to carry her.
We try.
Then but just for the next thing, I'll try just when it comes round. I'll just try dragging, assuming carrying isn't working.
Sure. The way I have it, these two kind of maybe Arthur and Oscar. Oscar, you said you were trying to go out second, so maybe Arthur has dashed out first. Oscar behind him. Mandrel and Alex kind of now maybe trying to. As Alex is dragging Rose, Mandrel, are you still helping Alex?
Or I help Alex.
Okay. You're kind of dragging Rose out of there. So, Arthur and Oscar, as you emerge from this, you can see kind of like the occasional crack is still erupting, kind of echoing round the fort gate, and you can see kind of, and I'm aware as I describe gun stuff that some people might watch this and go, he doesn't know anything about guns. It's true, I don't. Like you can see muzzle flashes going off, like up and around on the building surrounding it. You can see that kind of there seem to be a couple of individuals lurking at corners, perhaps also aiming kind of other things your way. And you can also see kind of on one down the road coming towards you, kind of from the direction of the south. You can see a man dressed in like a grey, well-tailored suit, a white shirt unbuttoned, grey hair, kind kind of very, very carefully formed, precise crew cut haircut, trimmed grey beard, walking slowly up the road towards where all this is happening. You have seen this man once before. His name is Isidore Gasang, and the first time you met him, he knew exactly who you were just from being near him. And he is now walking slowly and calmly towards this chaos of gunfire that's erupting around you. Mandrel and Alex, you can see multiple red dots kind of swarming around where you are now. Can you give me... I'm assuming you're going to try and avoid this gunfire while you're dragging Rose.
Yeah.
I'd be encouraging Alex, come on, Alex, are we really doing this?
You can make a roll to try and dodge this. It's going to be dexterity plus athletics. The regular difficulty is going to be 4, but that was assuming you're not, dragging someone. So I'd say that takes a modifier, and that would be. I'll be generous and say you lose a die from your dice pools.
I can't succeed at it anyway.
No, fail.
You have a choice. You are going to be shot, or you have to stop dragging her. I'm not railroading you. It's your choice.
I will stop dragging and just give Manuel a look and make a break for it as well.
Manuel appreciates that.
Dex plus athletic rolls?
Yes. Yeah, sure. Make your I think they will still take the shots at you. They probably haven't registered that you've dropped Rose yet. The difficulty is going to be 4 Dex plus athletics to avoid
I'm going to blood surge it.
shots. That seems appropriate.
I
know we're running a
6
little late tonight, guys, but this is a good climactic moment, right? So let's
got
run.
6 successes with critical win.
Nice.
4 successes on 6 dice with willpower and blood surge.
Nice. Okay. In that case, Mandrel, and I realize I'm speaking for you here, so tell me to fuck off and do it if you don't want this narration. I think Alex is kind of weaving amongst these shots, and kind of they're ricocheting off the ground, off the bricks of the Roman wall behind you as well. And Alex seems to be doing a fair enough job, but Mandrel is ahead of the curve. Did you say you got a critical, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mandrel, you stride forward, and the inhuman strength inside you rises to the surface. You grab Alex by kind of the back of Alex's shirt and just heave them forward, and kind of you've got this like little spurt of extra speed now. Alex, is that Mandrel has just kind of pitched you forward, almost. You're almost kind of triple jumping kind of yourself forward as you run across the road. It is very obvious after you've all run a short distance that only one end of the situation is being guarded. It's up to you whether you have the presence of mind to realize you're kind of being flushed in a direction. As Isidore Gasang strides forward, he's now kind of reached where Rose lies prone on the ground, and he calls out behind you. It's up to you whether you're looking behind or whether you're just registering this in a kind of flurry of images and sound. The shots start kind of dying out, or the rapidity of them starts dying out, and you hear a calm, almost would be soft voice if he wasn't shouting it out behind you, saying, "We only want her. You may leave."
God.
I think Mandrel is just probably repeating to Alex that they're sorry.
We've just got to get out of here.
Are you essentially all still running?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay. You're running in that kind of northerly direction. You can see the police barrier ahead of you, but now the kind of police guarding it has gone. It's just empty. You see a few kind of like civilians and mortals kind of like peering, like, "Oh, what the hell?" like round the corner because gunfire, right? Not exactly a massively regular occurrence in the center of London, even within the world of darkness. And you pitch past that crowd barrier. They're not following you. I assume, but again, I don't want to speak for you, that you are going to take evasive maneuvers and try and lose whoever may be following you as much as possible, and then go to ground at Down Street.
Yeah. I mean, that's my plan.
Is that a safe assumption?
Yes.
I don't want to narrate it in minute detail, In that case, why don't we have who's got the biggest pool for wits plus subterfuge?
I have 6.
I have
It's higher
5.
than me.
Cool. So it sounds like Arthur then. Is that right?
Does
Yep.
does instincts count out of interest?
No.
Then, no. Arthur.
Are we smuggling?
Yeah. So 6 there. Yeah. Has everyone else got subterfuge?
I do.
Yeah. 2.
Yeah. Great. So in that case, Arthur, why don't you roll? Make your roll and add 3 dice to it, and also you get your Poston 1 roll, right? Because we haven't completely finished Poston 2. So I'll be plus 1 dice to escape or evade surveillance nearby as well. So your pool, plus 3, plus 1.
Oh wow,
Otherwise known
that
as
is
plus 4.
10 dice, one of which is hunger.
We're gonna need them.
I don't know why I asked about instincts, because that's nothing to do with subterfuge anyway. But no.
No, but I think it's yeah.
So that's definitely a critical. That's
Good.
2,
Good.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, you're pretty sure that as soon as you've rounded a corner, you lead the group kind of down alleyways through like little paths, even at one point through like a kind of smaller parkland. And by the time you get back to Mayfair, and especially by the time you've entered the underground tunnels and made your way back into Down Street, you are 100% sure no one could possibly have followed you. If they did, they're beyond your ability to worry about.
It's impressive.
You reach back in Down Streets. Alex, you look down at these notes that Rose has left you with that clearly were significant enough for her to risk considerable danger to pass along to you, given that evidently either she or you were being observed. And yeah, I guess we can kind of draw a veil over the session with our coterie perhaps ready to unlock the secrets of the accounts that lie within this notebook. And with that in mind, next week we will be starting a little bit of something different. Some of the content of this chronicle is based on the Fall of London source book for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. Fall of London itself is a story source book primarily, which we haven't been running. It's quite different to this chronicle and is set a number of years before it. Next week, we will start to run Fall of London, which will be split throughout our Chronicle of London Ascendant in kind of snippets, like flashbacks, right? And next week will be the first one. So we will not be seeing what happens next to Alex and Arthur and Mandrill and Oscar. We will instead have our players here taking on different characters and telling the tale of, as it says, the Fall of London. A number of years before. So we hope you're excited for that and don't feel it's like some kind of horrible cop-out because you want to see what happened to the coterie. We will return, of course, to the coterie. But first, let's take a trip down memory lane. Thanks very much. I guess that's almost kind of like the first arc of London Ascendant there, put into place. And thank you to the players. Thank you to Steve for his wonderful stream managing, as always. Thank you to everyone who watched this, whether you did so on YouTube or Twitch. If you've got any comments or questions or suggestions or anything like that, pop them in the chat. and Steve will whack them up on screen for us to discuss for you. While that's happening, just a few notes. As I say at the beginning, we've got a bunch of links down below. We've got links to our Twitch, which you may be watching this on, to our YouTube, which you may be watching it on, to our Discord, to our Patreon, to social media. Check those out. We run another series every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock GMT. Simbroom, dark fantasy stuff. We'd love it if you join us for that. And we'd also love it if you join us this Saturday coming. That's Saturday, March the 6th, as we run a big one-shot stream of Troika, the slightly surreal old-school revival RPG. And we're running that at 3 o'clock GMT, and it'll be going for a few hours. Really looking forward to that. Very much looking forward to it. We have a whole 6 players stocked up for it. Some of whom are your favorites from other series that we run, and other things that we do. We're really looking forward to that. So come check that out. Yes, do that thing. And yeah, unless anyone's got any questions or comments, and while they pop up or don't. How does our coterie feel about the events of tonight?
That was good. That was a really good session. It was a mix of like great innuendos
Character and plot. Yes.
Yeah. I think Arthur feels incredibly confused.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I'm very interested in what Alex thinks of all this.
Yeah.
A disaster. Not
An
a mitigated
absolute
disaster. Not an absolute disaster, but a disaster.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely fair.
So many fronts. It even started off as a disaster. There was the Ghoul mention on the phone, which Alex was pretty skeptical of in the first place. But then Rose had to mention secrets in front of people. That's going to need explaining, even before we get onto the fact that she then got shot and captured.
Absolutely. Wonderful stuff. And we thought the most dramatic thing that would happen this evening was Oscar hiring 2 people. Still was pretty good, though.
It still was.
It absolutely was, and far more dangerous than the sniper fire. So yeah, I don't think we've got any questions or comments tonight, but thank you for watching, everyone. This has been a lot of fun, and yeah, Fall of London next week. If you're interested in that, please follow us on Twitch, please follow us on YouTube, and we'll see you next time for more London Ascendant. Farewell, everyone. Goodbye.